What would I tell my younger self? Hmm. So today I am going to do a little bit of self-reflection and tell myself, like, if I could go back in time, what would I tell my younger self? So I have 5 things that I would say to the younger me. So before I get started, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe below, and I'll get this list going. Here's younger me. Look at her. That was me on my graduation day from graduating from the University of South Carolina for my undergrad degree. Look at me. I'm all bright and bubbly eyed. I'm all proud, ready to take on the world. And yet I was so clueless. There are a lot of things that I was not ready for or prepared for when it came to just dealing with life in general, and I didn't always necessarily handle those things well. And so if I could go back in time, what would I say to my younger self? So the first thing that I would say is that it's okay if people don't like you. This is something that I struggled with a lot growing up, through middle school, high school, undergrad, even after graduating college and going into the professional world. It was always really important to me that people liked me. And sometimes that meant that I didn't really get to be myself. And one of the things that I would do differently is I would just accept that if everyone didn't like me, that's okay, and that understand that not everyone is going to like you. For me, it was just really important, especially during that time period, that people liked me. I wanted to be likable. I wanted people to want to be my friend. And if people didn't like me, that made me feel a certain way. And it's funny because now that I'm older, now, like, if people don't like me, I'm just like, meh, I don't care. I don't care. And that's one thing I wish that was different. I wish that I had that same kind of confidence when I was in my early 20s, especially when I was in undergrad. I wish I had that kind of confidence that I didn't care if people liked me or not. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean I wanted to be like a jerk or anything like that towards people, but I definitely let it consume a lot of my mental space. And if someone didn't like me, like, that person would sit in a little spot in my head. And it's kind of like that quote that Will Smith said a while back, and that quote was, don't allow people who do so little for you to take up so much space in your head. And I had to say, like, that was spot on. So that is one thing that I would tell my younger self. The second thing that I would tell my younger self in my early 20s is to spend less and save more. Ooh, listen, I do really well with saving money now, but when I was in my early 20s, I was not good at saving money. I spent money on things that weren't even worth spending money on. Money came in my hand and it just went swoop. Money came in my hand and it just went swoop. That could be a remix. But no, I spent a lot of money. Like, I always worked, I always had a job. I worked really hard and I earned the money, and I worked really hard for the money that I made. But I did not save much. I wish I would have saved more money in my earlier 20s, because I could be so much further ahead today had I been doing that back then. Like, I'm comfortable now, I'm good now, but think of how much I could have had by the time I was like 30 had I started saving more money earlier in my 20s. So that is one thing that I would go back and tell my younger self, is spend less and save more. The third thing that I would go back and tell my younger self is to don't be afraid to ask people for help. Now, this is one that was very problematic for me because even though sometimes I would ask people for help, I hated doing it. Because back then I thought that asking people for help was a weakness. I thought that if you needed someone to help you do something, then that meant that you were weak. And so there were plenty times where I did need help and I didn't ask people for help. I struggled because I was stubborn. I was thick-headed. I had a lot of pride, like a lot of pride. And for me, it meant a lot to be able to do something myself and not have to ask, someone for it. But, sometimes you can be so prideful that you can be stupid. I'm just gonna be, honest with you. Like, there were times I can think of a situation right off the top of my head where I ran out of gas. And now a coworker offered to drive me to the gas station so that I could get a gas can, fill up the gas can, drive me back to my car and fill up my car with gas. But I was so prideful. And I didn't want to ask for help. I walked all the way down Park Lane Road. If you live in Columbia, South Carolina, you're familiar with Park Lane Road. I walked all the way down Park Lane Road to the gas station, bought the gas can, filled the gas can back up, and then walked all the way back to my car. I don't know how long of a walk that was, but it was hot that day and it was a long walk. All because I didn't want to accept someone else's help. Again, I thought that was a weakness. And as I've gotten older, I realized that no, you're not weak if you ask someone for help. One of the things my dad told me is that, nobody got anywhere they are today without some type of help, whether it was from a friend, a family member, or just anyone. Everybody at some point needed help in their life. And there's no shame in asking for that. And so that's something that I would go back and tell my younger self is just don't be afraid to ask people for help, because you can do things a lot easier and a lot better when you have that help, instead of just being stubborn and being like, no, I'm doing this on my own. So the fourth thing that I would go back and tell my younger self is to have patience. Listen, I was a very impatient person. When I graduated from college, I expected things to happen like that. I expected to get like this awesome job, expected to work my way up in the ranks. I thought I was going to be making like buku money. I thought I was going to be rolling in the dough. I thought that I was going to be able to get like a house, like all this stuff. I expected things to happen quickly. And when I realized that things were not going to happen that quickly, I remember getting frustrated and getting agitated and being like, no, I earned these things in life and I hit these milestones. And so this is supposed to happen, and it's supposed to happen quickly. And what I did not take in to consideration at that time is, number one, the economy was not good. So the job thing took a while. When I graduated from undergrad, it took a while for me to get my first professional job. And a lot of people don't know that. I was waiting tables my senior year when I was in college, and I was still waiting tables when I graduated from college because I could not find a job. And that's the thing that I just thought would automatically happen. I thought that because I had this, undergraduate degree, this bachelor's degree, that that professional job would come like that would happen very quickly just because I have the degree. And then I got hit with the real world and realized no, honey, you and a lot of other people also have a bachelor's degree and they also graduated. Oh, and by the way, the economy is not good right now. So good luck trying to find that professional job. So these were just things that I did not think about. And being an impatient person, especially like back then, it was really difficult for me. I always thought that things would happen when I wanted them to happen. And so one thing that I would teach my younger self is that things don't always happen when you think they should. And you have to be okay with that and willing to roll with the punches and just to have a little bit more patience. So that was a big one. Have patience. Fifth and final thing that I would go back and tell my younger self is to, and if my parents are watching this, they're gonna laugh at this one, but I would listen to my parents more. I know, I said the dreaded phrase, listen to your parents. No, I would tell my younger self to listen to my parents more. My parents gave me a lot of advice and a lot of suggestions, but you know, when I graduated undergrad, I just thought I knew everything. I was like in my early 20s. I had a college degree. I was a first generation college student, so I was the first one in my family to go to college. And there was nothing that anybody could tell me. You could not tell me anything. I knew it all. I knew what I needed to do and how I needed to do it. And my parents along the way would always give me like tips and suggestions. And my dad would say like, well, you know, why don't you try this? You know, why don't you try it that way? And I was just so stubborn, you know, again, that pride. I was so stubborn, and I did not listen to my parents a lot of times during that time period in my life. And as a result, I felt like I struggled more and I struggled longer because I was very stubborn and I didn't want to listen to my parents. Now, that doesn't mean that your parents are always right. So let's pause that. That doesn't mean that they're always right, but sometimes it's good to take a step back and just sit and think about the fact that they are older. They've already been through, you know, some of the things and a lot of things that you are going through now. They are wise, they have wisdom, and sometimes I think as a young person, it can be really easy to dismiss what people who came before you have to say. And it's because of the generational thing, and you think that they don't understand because they're not a part of your generation. Generations change, technology changes, but one thing that remains the same is that the people who came before us, they've been through it, so they do know what they're talking about. And this is something where I think that not just my younger self, but a lot of younger people could, you know, benefit from. Sometimes it's good to listen to what people who are older than you know, your elders, your parents, listen to what they have to say, and not be so quick to dismiss it because they're not a part of your generation. So that was something that I really goofed on, I think. And I think had I listened to my parents like I was supposed to, I think that I may not have struggled as much as I did. So shout out to mom and pops. All right, guys, that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed that video, but I have a question for you. What would you tell your younger self? Feel free to comment below in the comment section. All right, guys, I'll see you later on with more videos. Bye.